trying to decide whether that new game is worth your $60? Or maybe you're just wondering if an old game is worth your time? Well, you came to the right place. This is the only podcast that tries to answer the question,
should I buy it though?
Hey everyone, welcome back to Should I Buy It Though? And this week we are soaring through the sky not as Tin Daddies, but as Iron Men.
Boo.
This week we're talking about Iron Man VR. I am Giancarlo Herrera.
Who are you people?
I'm Nick Stark.
TJ Berry.
I'm Amanda Facosta.
And I'm Tony Nick.
And today's episode is going to be a little different because today we really only have one reviewer. Mr. Venetatos, the Iron Man.
Iron Man Venetatos.
Ooh,
Yay.
all right.
So that said, I guess I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to let Venetatos open this episode. Give us some of your first thoughts with Iron, or give us your background, because I think the viewers will be interested to hear that you're the one who played it out of all of us.
I give this game a B out of 5. Really makes you feel like Iron Man. Okay. No, I don't like superheroes. That stuff, I'm not about the Madagascar cinematic universe or any of that stuff. I'm very Martin Scorsese, you know. They're just like cheap theme park rides. Like, they're cute, but I'm not a big fan. I do love me some VR though, and that's why I'm the only one that has PSVR here. And yeah, we were interested, so I took a look, and I looked at it, and I don't know. I do not.
How's it looking?
I came in with some low expectations. But I would be lying if I said I didn't have any fun with it. So I really do not have I do not know how I'm going to vote at the end of this. I will say that I probably wouldn't have had this much fun if I wasn't streaming. But the story's cute. I don't really know that much about the story. I don't even know really Iron Man's backstory. The only Iron Man story, the one that I like, is the Black Sabbath Iron Man, who goes to the future and then gets turned to steel and then takes revenge on the world. So that's fucking metal as fuck to me, dude. But
So needless to say, Iron Man VR is definitely on the uphill climb in this review. But I will say what's interesting is, if you don't know somehow that we do stream on the Whimsic Productions YouTube channel. We're playing games over there all the time, and usually the games that we're reviewing, we are streaming as well most of the time. So go check that out. But I was watching the stream the entire time, all 3 episodes. I know, Palazzo, you were there for a lot of it. Amanda, you were there for a good bit as well.
Yeah, I went back and watched all of it eventually, so
Gotcha.
caught up with his series.
Yeah. And I think the interesting thing is that we've started at polar opposite points. Because I also am a huge VR fan, but I'm also a big Marvel fan. So I came in with thinking that this is probably going to be an awesome game. Like, who doesn't want to be Iron Man and fly around and blast stuff, you know? I'm like, how could you drop this ball? It's so easy to make a good
yeah, the concept
game.
is so cool in theory, in theory.
And yet, I found myself, as a viewer, I was like, Nick is very entertaining, but the game itself, snooze fest. And I feel like the less interested I got, the more Nick started to enjoy it. So I'm definitely curious to see what it felt like from a player's perspective. But yeah, if any of you are interested in seeing that playthrough, go check out the YouTube channel. Does anyone have any opening remarks, or should we get into some questions for Nick?
Oh, I mean, really quick, like you, I'm a big Marvel fan as well, but the stories seem to be like a bad Iron Man fan fiction rather than...
Give us the quote.
I will. I will. So when I was watching Nick play this game, I texted John in the middle of the stream saying, this game looks like one of the writers turned it into Disney and they rubbed their dick all over it and then just handed it back because the script of this game was so just cheesy, and there was jokes thrown in every single second, and most of them
but isn't
were not
that
good.
how a normal Marvel movie kind of?
No. This was dialed
Not
up
like
to
that.
like 20 degrees or 20
Yeah.
times higher, you know?
So I think this is this is like rated T, so I wasn't I wasn't expecting.
Which
was rated
shocked
T?
me.
I think so. Yeah.
This should have been rated E for everyone.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
was a children's
I was
game.
about to
You were
say.
literally
Straight up.
fighting evil shapes for like half the game.
That was I wanted to be like Iron Man in the first movie because I at
Yeah.
least saw that one where he's coming out of the cave, like shooting all the terrorists and stuff, and at least fighting a face. Like the enemy had no face in this game. That
Yeah.
was-
And this
but-
game, it was made by like a pretty new studio. It was like Camouflage Studios, and they had
Yeah.
done like one
with
no-name
a
game
J
before.
because they're fancy.
Right.
Camouflage.
But Marvel published it, right? So
Yeah.
they had
Yeah.
probably a ton of money at their disposal. So it just surprised me that they weren't more innovative with the VR gameplay, or even the voice actor was recycled. If you didn't know, the Josh Keaton who voiced Iron Man in this game, he was Spider-Man in not the new Spider-Man game, but
I
in a
thought
bunch
he
of
sounded
past
like
Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
games.
He made
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
quips, and I was like, "This is not Tony Stark. This is Peter Parker." Like,
Yeah, he did Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time. He did Friend or Foe. A
Oh
lot
man,
of
I
Spider-Man
loved
games.
Spider-Man Friend or Foe back in the day.
But again, it just didn't sound like Tony Stark. It was like a Disney-fied version of it, which
Yeah.
technically you could say is Spider-Man. You know?
Yeah,
Pepper, I recognize her voice actress is in a lot of stuff. Jennifer Hale.
Oh.
I don't know exactly. I can't think of right now, but I've heard her voice a million times.
So I guess for this review, we'll probably do a reverse order. It being a VR game, and being, not super story heavy. I think we can start with the narrative and how that felt, and then go into the mechanics, because I think that's where a VR game either shines or fails. I don't know if you agree there, but usually I feel like, at least at this point in time, your VR game has to have rock solid mechanics,
Sure, yeah.
I will open to Nick at first. How did the narrative feel? Were you invested? Was it effective?
So, no, right away I was like, I'm just going to make up my own story here
Yeah.
and try to have fun with it because, right away he opens with some cheesy dialogue. I can't even remember what it is. But I will say, though, that as I went on, the ending, I appreciated a little more. Like, I thought they had a decent message, I guess. Like, this was not Thanos or anything, but you could kind of understand where the villain was coming from in this.
Yeah.
So they weren't super... That's one of the villains. The other one, the living laser, the super cheesy, nerdy, evil guy who's just bad for the sake of being bad. That wasn't good. That was bad.
Yeah.
But I guess this... We also predicted right away
Yep.
some... I don't... Do we
There
care
is
about
a
spoiling that?
character who gets introduced, and visually and narratively and everything about this character screams, "I'm gonna turn on you in a few chapters," and sure enough, that's exactly what happens.
It feels like it's... I felt like this is meant for kids. Like, if I was...
I agree.
A teenager or younger, and I really loved Iron Man, and since it's VR, I would probably be pooping my pants. I know for boomers, we probably sound like the kids from Back to the Future. Like, this is a game where you have to use your hands. That's a baby's game, right? Because we're used to, this is virtual reality. Like it's still an amazing accomplishment. The game,
Absolutely, yeah. I think the sense that I got from it, especially in the opening chapter, the thing that I couldn't stop thinking, as a viewer at least, was that it looks like if we were young kids who are big Marvel fans and, not necessarily looking for super meaningful narrative in our gameplay,
Right.
if we just want to play a game and we like Iron Man, that looks like it could be fun. To me, it reminded me of when I was young and I would go to the arcade and play the Terminator game with my dad.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about? The
Yeah,
ones where
I do.
you have the guns and you're shooting at the screen,
Yeah.
and there's kind of a story, but it doesn't matter.
Right.
It feels like that. It feels like an arcade game.
It definitely is an arcadey game for sure.
Even
Especially...
the story, it seemed like clocked into me. I don't know. And I don't know if that's because Marvel was just like, just get the game out. We just want a VR game. Make it and send it to us. You have 2 months. You're cheap. This is what we're paying you for it. So here you go. Or if it was because maybe COVID got in the way with more development time, because they did have that message at the end of the
interestingly,
game.
they mention at the end like good luck to everybody, or we pray for everybody in the pandemic, and also mentioning the riots as well, like the racial injustices. Yeah. It wasn't intrusive or anything. It came right at the end, like at the credits. It was interesting and a nice touch, I guess.
It seemed tactful for sure, but I just wasn't sure if maybe COVID had something to do with rush development time or something, or if they just wanted to add that in to be nice. But
it seems to me like it might have been out of concern for the release window. I mean, granted, it's not like I'm an expert on game development, but I feel like they probably had, at least narratively, which is what we're talking about, I'm sure that was done.
But that message, like, a lot of people probably even skip that message because they let you skip the credits. I just felt like I should put the credits in the video.
I agree.
Yeah, probably half of this team was really dedicated, and half this team was, let's just get it done. Like,
it is like a new studio, so maybe, I mean, it's their first or second time. They're not probably. They had a lot of pressure on them to write a good Iron Man game in like 10 hours and do the VR implementation and all that stuff, so I forgive them for that.
I don't even know that I want to like throw the development team under the bus. Like, I'm sure everyone probably put their hearts into it, because making a game is no easy feat, especially in VR as well. Like, there are a lot of different considerations you have to take when you're developing a virtual reality game, but you also just have to remember that they're working for the mouse, and what the mouse wants, the mouse gets. So like, they could very well have wanted to make some like dark, gritty Iron Man story or whatever. But Disney, especially, like we said, like a VR game that it feels like it is kind of made for kids. Maybe that wasn't the intention, but it's something that Disney probably wants to push because they want it to be a family property where everyone can buy Iron Man VR. And
even the scene with Ghost, where it looked like they were trying to go for maybe horror elements in one section. He was cracking jokes the whole time too, so I'm like, they had an opportunity here to do something cool, but it just still feels like a kid's game.
I appreciated those moments where they tried to be scary. Like, they don't scare me per se, but there was that one moment where she did catch me off guard. But I don't think it was meant to be scary, but I totally just looked away, turned back, and she was right in my face. So but I actually think they did a good job with those.
Since you bring up Ghost, I guess let's talk about the use of characters and Marvel properties in this game, which I guess Benetatos, not really your field. But I'm curious how these characters came across for you. He might be. I'm not familiar with him. He's at least not from like the MCU. He might be some character they pulled out of a comic somewhere. But like Ghost and Fury and like these people like Pepper, like they're all Friday. They're all real characters,
right?
Living lasers from the comics.
Yeah, Living lasers are real.
Yeah,
they just felt kind of blandish to me. Like I saw what they were going for personality wise as a viewer, but I don't know. Did you like connect to the characters? I'm curious.
Not at all. There's a lot of things where Tony himself would say things I didn't agree with. Something a little is turn off the music, I'd be like, are you kidding me? He's jamming out over there. I'm jamming over here. You want him to shut that off? Or he's like getting upset with Gunsmith. I was like, no, thank you for throwing down that giant laser and saving me, stuff like So, and you saw the shenanigans I was doing. I was putting my hand on their faces, rubbing their heads, scratching their chins, whatever, punching them. I hate that Tony had to be a goody two-shoes at that one part. So no, I did not connect.
Do you have anything else, I guess, narrative, or should we start talking about mechanics?
It's not a very strong narrative, is it?
Yeah.
No.
It seems that way.
No. I just didn't... not that I expect... I don't even expect Marvel to have really any super mature storylines or anything, because it is a family thing now, especially with it being for Disney.
Yeah.
The concept of being a flying iron dude, though, is awesome.
Absolutely.
So even if I was having fun, just living that, just role playing that, I guess.
Well, since you bring up when you were talking about the narrative, the fact that they force you to be a goody two shoes and all of that, and that's necessary for narrative if you're telling a linear story. That's fine. But one of the things that struck me as odd, and I'm curious how it felt to you as a player being in the headset, was it felt like the game, especially for being a virtual reality game, did not give the player a lot of freedom. There was a lot of stuff you couldn't do. There were a lot of places you couldn't go. There was one section where it was like a short 30-second scene, and then it would cut to black and load, and another 30-second scene, and it would cut to black and load. Did you feel like you were free in the game? Did you feel like you had a satisfying amount of choice as far as how you were approaching gameplay and environments?
No, I'm sure like the choices, like what dialogue I wanted to select, I'm sure that the other character would have said the exact same response no matter what I picked. I'm pretty sure. I really only felt free when I was flying around, like literally flying like a free bird. But and I would do stupid things and characters wouldn't even react to it.
Exactly.
Slapping their butts, whatever. They just stare at me. I like that, they're tracking me with their eyes in their head, but I'm moving side to side. But why are they not thinking like, what the frick is this guy moving? Yeah. His head back and forth like he's in a disco.
Or even having them like react to your hand, like maybe not necessarily like, don't do that, but just like move out of the way when you put your hand somewhere or something like that. Because
in the sections where you're Tony Stark, you would have to like click to teleport to a different location, right? I don't get that because there's a lot of VR games that do that. But if you have a game where like flying is pretty free and you have other VR games, like I'm sorry I keep bringing it up, but Resident Evil 7 where you could literally walk anywhere you want, like I don't see how that's not a thing that people just do now in their VR games. Maybe it's tough.
There is a simple answer to that, and then I guess there's a variety of ways you could look at it. The main reason that became a thing, especially at the onset of VR starting to become more popular, is a solution for motion sickness. Because the problem is when your eyes are seeing that you are walking, but you're like your inner ear is telling your brain that you're standing still, that's when people get seasick in VR. So a lot of games, at least on the PC front, I don't have experience with PSVR, but a lot of times they would even give you the option where they go, okay, you can do free movement like in a game, or you could teleport. Now, the thing with Iron Man that I saw, or maybe I was just misinterpreting, but it looked like there were set spots that you could teleport to. Yeah. It wasn't that you could pick where you could teleport to. So that may have been a development consideration to, I guess, reduce workload or something along those lines by saying, okay, we need to develop this world and we know exactly where the player is going to be so we can fine tune so that no matter where they're standing, it's the experience we want to give them, but we don't have to worry about them like trying to climb into this little corner that we didn't anticipate, that sort of thing. And to me, it feels like in a VR game that would be unsatisfying. I understand the teleportation, and if you're gonna make that the main mode of transport, I guess I'm okay with that because again, Disney wants this to be as appealing to as many people as possible. So if you reduce the possibility of people getting motion sick, more people are going to buy it. But if you're going to do the teleportation, give us the freedom. Like, that's the fun of virtual reality, I feel. Did you feel restricted by that? Did that bother you?
It didn't bother me as much because there's not a whole lot of gameplay in those areas where the teleporting is required. I was bothered by there's that part where your suit's failing and they want you to kind of move slowly through the cave, and I have to move just with the thrusters. Yeah. But I'm moving so slow that at that point I wish I could have just walked. Or even and if I want to get somewhere right next to me, I have to boost and overshoot it sometimes because I can't just walk there. I have to thrust with the palm thrusters that Iron Man uses to fly around everywhere. So, they should have just given you the option, really.
Was it fun to fly? Like, was that an enjoyable mechanic? Because that's the big selling point of the game.
I wish that was in like Skyrim VR or something. A game with more substance.
Yeah.
And even combat was kind of fun, honestly. I really enjoyed that they put in the punching mechanic, because I'm a big puncher in my VR games, and definitely started role playing at the end. My movements were super robotic. I felt like I was Iron Man. So.
Combat and flight were definitely my two big questions for you, because that is the game. That is Iron Man.
Yep.
So I was curious, in your gameplay, how much you enjoyed that. Like, how free did the flight feel? As far as did it kind of feel like you were flying? Like, was it that? Did you have a little bit, at least, of that moment of like awe? When you're
so
finally free and you can fly.
Did you feel like Spider-Man?
Yeah. I feel like there's some skill to the flying. But for the most part, it's a little too easy. Like you saw where I'm literally making a stirring motion, like I'm baking a cake or something with my hand, or stirring a pot of soup, and I was still able to fly and go where I want, because mainly it's where your head is pointed that he flies.
Yeah.
I couldn't pull off. I wish that it was harder so that I could pull off some more impressive, I guess.
I agree. As a viewer, I commented that at one point, but like it looked to me watching you, I wish that it was harder, not for the sake of challenge, but for the sake of
being more entertaining to watch.
Not even entertaining to watch, but it looked like it was uninteresting gameplay, because it was almost like you were on a rail, and if they made it more challenging, not for the sake of the challenge, but for the sake of freedom. It gives the player more ability to experiment with stuff.
They also make you're very floaty. You feel super light in this game. When I stop the thrusters, it's like I'm on the moon, like very low gravity for some reason.
And in the sections where you were like falling out of the plane at one point, it seemed very limiting with where you could look and what you could do too. Because there was one point where you kind of looked off to the left, and then the game told you, no, look back down, because this is a scripted section, you know? I don't know if you remember that, but I'm like, it's VR. Like, why can't I just do that? It's fine if I'm falling and I need to do something, but give me the freedom to, like, look around and enjoy the world that you made.
When we've seen games like Half-Life Alyx, as someone who I have not even played that game yet, but you see the unprecedented amount of freedom that you get. And I mean, there's jank, because in a virtual reality game, I saw something where there's like a scripted event in an elevator, but the person triggered it without going in. And then, so like the cutscene started, and eventually just ended up getting teleported to the next area, because you're supposed to get like knocked out or something like that. And she wasn't in the elevator. But also in games like Skyrim, even, because it's an open world, like that freedom translates well. So it seemed like they were going for that arcadey linear path. But because it is tied to your body, it seems so jarring that they kept trying to railroad you into where they wanted you to be. Let's also talk about combat. How did combat feel? Because it looked like the game gave you a variety of weapons and ways to approach the combat, based on like hand motions, it seemed, was the kind of thing. How did that feel? Was that awkward? Was it fun? Did you feel like there was enough of a difference between the weapons to justify?
For whatever reason, the first time I was playing and I got first introduced to the auxiliary weapons, which is like your secondary weapons, whatever, that you can equip, that you can choose to equip before the mission. Only one of them really interests me. I tried a couple and they just sucked, and there's only one of them that really stood out, so I just used that one for the whole game. The cannon that just fires like 50 rounds before you have to reload, because I can't the game doesn't let me reload on my own. I have to empty the whole thing first, and then it decides to reload, and I don't like that. But they wanted me to do those auxiliary weapons. You have to bend your wrist down, so kind of like the cannon will shoot out from your wrist instead of from like your palm, where he shoots those fireballs or whatever. And at first, it was super awkward, because for whatever reason, I had to do it like a T-Rex.
Yeah.
my first time playing, my first session, I guess. But then I guess when I adjusted it later for the other sessions, it was very natural to bend my arm like that. And so, yeah, I like that. There was only one auxiliary weapon that I liked, but I loved using it. The primary weapon was fine, but mainly I punched through this game. Yeah, and that to me was... I'm glad they added that because that was a lot of fun for me. But so combat, yeah, I would be lying if I said I didn't have some fun with the combat. Not too crazy.
I was gonna ask in regards to the combat, like, did it feel repetitive at one point? Did you get kind of bored or anything like that? Just because when I was watching, there was, I don't know, I feel like I would have gotten bored.
Yeah,
maybe.
Definitely. There's some parts. There's especially enemies where you have to wait for... They are dictating the fight. Like, they choose when they're vulnerable to attack. Or, like, when they attack, you have to wait for them. So that gets really stale because it's just stalling. I'm just trying to get on with the game. And, yeah, I think playing this game in little chunks is better to digest that because it'll feel fresh the next day. But yeah, it can definitely, for sure, get repetitive.
And you get more bang for your buck because the game's short, right? It's not a long game.
Yeah, the game's $40, so we should probably, for every $1, that's every minute we should spend reviewing our games.
Yeah. Oh man, we went way over on BioShock then.
Yeah. Hey, that's a special boy.
That
Nick,
It's emotional dollars.
Did you? I don't even remember if this was a thing you could do. Did it let you use his unibeam? His,
It did.
Chest laser?
It did, and I barely used it. Yeah, I
Oh, okay.
that wasn't that fun to me. Just like a one shot laser. And the ending fight. I don't know if I should spoil it, but I'll just say the ending fight is when I was the most like. Not even Iron Man in character per se, but like I was in character, but not as Iron Man. I was just like
as the dude with the Iron Man suit.
Yeah, with a robot suit, and I felt scary, and I felt overpowered, and I was punching things, I was flamethrowing things, I was shooting things, and doing my robot voice, and ground pounding things, chasing after the robots. I could see the fear in their processors. Like, yeah, that I guess that was fun.
Guess who? Oh, you guessed it. Yep, it's me again with another quick message for all of you. Hey everyone, thank you all so much for listening to this week's episode. I just wanted to butt in real quick and say that we are currently officially in the last few days of our Indiegogo. Our launch campaign is closing out this weekend, so I wanted to give a quick reminder to anyone who may be interested to go ahead and check that out. Remember that donations of any amount, our lowest reward tier is $10, but you can go in and set a custom amount even just for $1, and those donations, everyone will be rewarded with access to our Discord for life. We're really trying to encourage that because we want to build a community with all of the listeners and know what kind of stuff you want to see in the future. So getting in on that Discord and being able to vote and chat with us is going to be a great way to do that if you like what we're doing and you want to help shape it in the future. And if you're interested in requesting a special episode for review or even coming on the show and reviewing a game with us, those rewards will of course be going away once the Indiegogo ends this weekend. So be sure to check that out. Once again, we want to give a real special thank you to all of our founding parents, including Adriana Alarcon, Juan Zorrilla, Will Williams, Ann Baird, Jerry Benetatos, Katrina Scott, Carolina Riverol, Alejandro Alarcon, and Giovanni Zorrilla. Thank you all so much for the support. We launched the show just about a month ago, and honestly, we've received so much more love than we could have hoped for, so we really appreciate it. And if you're listening and looking for a way to support the show, but can't necessarily contribute financially, word of mouth is our best friend. So if you know anyone who you think might enjoy what we're doing over here, please link them through, share some episodes with them, and tell them that they should buy the podcast, though. And if you like what we're doing here, please consider checking out our other podcast, Dungeons and Drimbus, as well. We have a full 3-episode mini arc up already, complete with a behind-the-scenes episode. And pretty soon we're going to be doing our first full-length first season of a campaign. So make sure you're subscribed over there for that. Again, as always, you can find all of our links to pretty much anything you want to find on whimsicproductions.com. Thank you all so much. I'll let you get back to the episode. Before we get into graphics and performance, I'm curious how immersed you felt in the game, particularly in regards to the environments, because I know we kind of commented on it a lot. It takes place in, is it Tokyo at one point?
Shanghai, China.
Shanghai. So it takes place in Shanghai at one point, and the city was just dead. There was no one around. Like it looked like an old, like N64 game where it's like there are buildings, but it's not really a city.
No. The environments suck. They are very bland. And Shanghai. China has nobody in it, no cars in it, and they're pretending like it's all inhabited, so they'll put little police sirens like to show, we're in danger. You'll scan a building, and it'll say there's people in it, but not really. And then I shot up that building afterward just for fun. But it didn't do anything. There's no destruction or anything like that. That would have helped a lot. Some kind of little destructibility or something. There was the mission in the valley where I was like, oh, this would be so cool if there were other human beings that I could be sneaking around on, like in Crisis or something. Yeah. Because I had the perfect camo suit and I had these trees, so I felt like I would love to be like a cybernetic stalker or something. But it's not a stealth game. It's just shoot the drones, the game.
What about the indoor environments?
So I only liked those when it was trying to be spooky, scary. Yeah, I thought they were doing a pretty good job. It was a cute little puzzle, I guess. And that one in the cave.
Okay, so next up, I guess, and you can tackle these together, I suppose, but for me is graphics and performance, especially in VR where people are kind of more prone to, like we were talking about earlier, possibly getting sick and all of that. I guess on two fronts, how smooth did you feel everything was presented? As far as, did anything feel jarring? Did it feel natural to be in where you were? And then also, was it immersive again? So like, did it look clean to you? Did it feel real, to a reasonable, to a satisfying degree, as far as how it ran and how it looked?
So yeah, I guess I'll start with the immersive stuff. I love, they have little foods like sandwiches, grapes, cherries, whatever, that you can pretend to eat and like put it to your mouth, and Tony will chomp on them. You can put a drink into your mouth and he'll make glurping noises. He's apparently like the strongest hero even without his suit, because you can juggle 45-pound weights like they're ping pong balls. And they add a nice little, even a literal arcade like basketball hoop machine there. Punching bag. Cute little stuff like that. He has his douche glasses. I don't know what those are for, but you can. I was throwing those in the air.
To be a douche, of course. Yeah,
I did the classic. I would throw it up in the air with one hand, catch it in the other, and then throw the glasses on. That was fun to do. So while the indoors weren't that fun, adding that helps. I could do a lot of goofy stuff on stream. I guess it was fun for me. Every time I saw a book, I would throw it across the room. And you could open it and you could even turn one page, so that was pretty cool. And then the book would teleport back, and I just keep throwing whatever. But so not super immersive story wise, but these little gimmicks they throw in like that help. The suit, when you're booting up the suit, it shows all the little lights coming on, and Zark will breathe on the suit with his heavy breath, and it'll fog up.
Oh, I saw that. That was cool. Did you like the comic book aesthetic of it? Because normally with superhero games, I'm all about bright colors, comic booky, make a superhero game fun, unless it's like Batman or something, and the atmosphere needs to be dark. But I'm curious to hear from you if in a VR game, if that kind of pulled you out of it, if you felt like you were, I'm in this cartoony superhero world. It doesn't really feel like I'm there doing stuff.
Yeah, it did feel like that.
Cartoony?
It was cartoony, yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
Another thing I'm curious, as far as like you brought up the magazines and the books and how you could open it.
Yeah.
I thought that was a cool little mechanic, but then the text would literally, there was no text, it was just lines.
They would do one like
a heading,
not even paragraph. Yeah, like a heading in real text, and then lines where there's nothing to read.
Yeah. As someone who has played more PSVR, because in PC I feel like developers are often more willing to leverage the power of the high end and throw in more features, even if they know that some people aren't going to be able to run it. Whereas I assume when you're developing for a platform like PSVR, I'm sure Sony or whoever is probably like, no, this needs to run just as well on the PS4 Pro as it does on the base PS4. So I'm curious how, on this front of like graphics and performance and all of that, how that compared to other experiences you've had in VR. Did this feel equally fully baked, or was it maybe lacking in comparison?
No, the graphics were actually, while they're not that great, they're better than I was expecting, because a game like Skyrim VR that I play a decent amount of, they turned the graphics back down for that to get to keep that nice frame rate. But they also have very low draw distance in Skyrim VR, lower than the normal one. And this game, I didn't notice any draw distance problems. My range for my weapons might not be that far, but I could see things from pretty far away. And I don't think there was a lot of frame drops. And so I would say it looked better than Skyrim VR and ran just as smooth. Okay. I guess.
Oh, you know what bugged me? And this might be a VR limitation, but the loading screens.
Yeah.
And the load times, they were agonizing at points. And they were quite frequent, too.
Yeah.
And yet when a big story moment was happening, I guess, like after fighting a bunch of waves, it would just black me out really fast and then load me in front of the bad guy for him to yell at me, and I couldn't move while he's giving his monologue. So there's a restriction there, too. Yeah. I tried doing little skits with my loading screens. I would go fishing. I would make a pizza. I would make hand puppets, whatever. But I was running out of ideas.
No, you did a great job. You did a great job.
They were so long. Like, they had so many. Like,
No,
Skyrim has a lot, but they
why.
don't load that. They're not that long. You know, you load in to the house for like 5 seconds, and then you're in the house. This was
man, you were
long.
putting your degree to use. It was great. You did great.
Thank you.
So on that front of performance and all of that, so would you feel safe recommending this to maybe someone who's maybe their first experience in VR, or do you think you might need to start them out with something a little more tame?
Oh, I guess it depends on whether they get motion sickness, because
exactly,
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I can play for a bit before I guess my eyes might hurt or something.
Was it a comfortable experience, I guess is...
I was comfortable. I'd say
Okay.
I was pretty comfortable with the right setting. You had to make sure, whatever, because my arms in this game were super long at first. When I was starting it up, I had 6 feet arms or something. So make the right adjustments, or else you're going to have to do T-Rex arms, and it's going to feel very unnatural.
And I don't know if this will help people, anyone listening that does get motion sickness. I know this is the case in Resident Evil, but there's a setting in your VR headset that adjusts the camera to track your head movements and follow along no matter where you look. And there's also a setting to make it a snapped camera when you turn. And I've heard if you go to the snapped setting instead of the other one, it makes it better for people that get motion sickness, or that's easier for your eyes to adjust to. So I don't know if that's in Iron Man VR or not, but that
I had
help.
turning. My turning was set on gradual instead of snaps because I like the smooth turning. But you can set it to snap at like 15 degrees or at 30 degrees, or if you're a weirdo, I guess 90 degrees. You can snap it and look in just 4 directions with each press of the button.
Gotcha.
But it's good to know we have those options to accommodate people who may not feel as comfortable in
Right.
VR.
For sure.
So, I think it's a comfortable experience for people starting for the first time in VR.
I guess the last thing from me, at least, is technically, did you run any? Because I know you mentioned like the arms and all of that. I remember seeing that. Other than that, did you run into any glitches, bugs, or just like kind of game-breaking moments? Anything that people should be aware of going in, or did it feel polished?
So besides T-Rex arms, there was that happened on stream.
Yes.
At least I noticed it, but I was in the loading screen, but it was pitch black for me. But I think I was like hearing the loading screen kind of ambient noise, so I suspected I was, and I aimed apparently in the right spot and clicked like start the next mission while like it was completely black. So thankfully I saved it, but that was on stream and yeah, those are the two bugs that so you might load without having vision, and good luck finding the start button for the next mission. Otherwise, I guess you have to close app.
But that wasn't a recurring thing for you, was it?
No, that was once, and the T-Rex arms was once. Yeah.
Okay, so overall, relatively well baked, I guess.
Yeah, they did a good job actually. Like, it's hard to make a VR combat flying game, right? So I still think they did a pretty decent job. Like, I can respect it.
Yeah. All right. Does anyone else have any outstanding questions? Because I think you covered most of my curiosities.
Yeah,
Most of them
same,
pretty
really.
much hit. Would you play this game again?
Okay, if I was really bored with nothing better to do, like I've played every other good game, I guess, or I was just sick of every other good game, then yes, maybe I can see myself throwing on, because this game desperately needs some heavy metal, but I would definitely throw on the heavy metal, go to my favorite mission with the flamethrowers. That's all I'm going to say about that. Yeah. And, yeah, really get into character, and I would have to make my own fun, but I think I could maybe possibly play it again for a little bit. Like, if
were you able to make your own fun in the training mission areas? Because the game peppered you with training missions.
Unfortunately, no. This game suffers from... I can't believe they haven't learned this from Superman 64, like flying through those rings that every YouTube video brings up when they talk about the flying through rings in a time trial is not fun. And they should have known that by now. And I'm ashamed. They should be ashamed for that one. I'm sorry. But you could have done anything else. Waves is also a cheap way of getting out of it, but Waves would still be more fun than that. It was definitely to prolong gameplay, because it's what did I do, 6 to 8 hours or something?
Yeah, I think it ended up being somewhere 7 to 8-ish.
Yeah. Compared to other VR games that you've played, where does it stack amongst those? On the lower end of entertainment, higher end? Like, where would it sit?
I'm still playing Skyrim VR. This one I'm not sure about, and yeah, hopefully I can try Resident Evil 7. That sounds like
if you're interested in that, feel free to shoot us a tweet or talk to us on Discord, and we might force Nick to stream that for all of you. But yeah,
pee his pants a little bit.
Yeah, please. I want to pee my pants.
Do you feel like you're ready for a vote, or does anyone else want to hit anything else?
Well,
all right.
I think so.
In the case of Iron Man VR, Nicholas Benetatos, holder of the Iron Suit, how do you vote?
Okay. So, it was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I did make my own fun, but I still had fun nonetheless. Streaming helped. Stupid gimmicks helped. Role-playing helps. The price helps, because that price is low. It's a bit of a stretch, but I'm not going to pretend like they didn't work hard and they deserve some money, right? So I'm still, and unless you're a huge superhero fan, Iron Man fan, I'm gonna have to say you should not buy this game.
Wow.
It is not a must buy at all. It is a cheap thrill, fun experience. It's still fun, but it's not a must-buy. And there are better things you could be doing.
You heard it here first, folks. Do not buy Iron Man VR. Save up your quarters. Go play Terminator at the arcade.
Maybe with a lower price drop, I could.
Maybe with a
suggest-
lower price drop, I
But we don't go halvesies on this show. You either buy it or you don't. And I'm saying no, you
Don't
should
buy.
not buy.
Do not buy.
Don't buy, at least not now. Not until a price drop. Maybe $20, and then maybe buy. But don't buy.
Is this like a new thing we're doing? Is that,
No,
is
I
this-
certainly
it's either
hope
you
not.
buy, it's either you buy or you don't. And no, you should not buy it. And that's
Should
it.
I maybe kind of buy it, though?
No. This is my suggestion. You should not buy.
Alright.
That being said, it comes over later, and you somehow have a PSVR sitting in your attic, and it's $20 or something,
$5.
and you're bored. It's $5, and you're bored. Then throw it on, laugh at the game for a bit, and then turn it off.
For what it's worth, as a viewer, I think I agree with you. I very nearly fell asleep at some points. And...
And I feel sorry. It sucks.
Yeah, based on what I watched, I would not pay $40 for that experience.
It's just so upsetting. It's so much potential was in this.
Mhm.
Just the concept itself. There's so much potential. Just not even the lore. Just being a super suit that flies around with all these mech abilities.
It is a huge letdown because for me, I remember when I played Spider-Man PS4, one of the things I was hoping for was that maybe Insomniac would make an Iron Man game with that sort of spirit in mind, because it seemed like that formula of getting the upgrades and the gadgets and unlocking all the suits and having fun gameplay.
Yeah.
Iron Man being able to fly around and all that, it seemed like it had a lot of potential. So in VR, I feel like that's almost what I was hoping for, like a shortened version of the Spider-Man experience adapted to Iron Man.
Well,
but
yeah,
clearly
that's
not
what I was
that
gonna
is.
say. They're supposed to be doing like a Marvel video game universe.
Yeah.
And Spider-Man was the first game for that, and I think Avengers is the next one. So I thought it was weird that they made this side thing, this side Iron Man experience. Like,
But it's a different
I don't know.
company, right? Insomniac.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Avengers game is being done by Square Enix, but it's going to be under that blanket of the video game universe. So I don't know what they're doing. I really don't.
I suppose it's in the same vein of like you get different directors for the movies, but in this case you get different production companies to fit the style of the game you're going for.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you mentioned Spider-Man, and again, I don't like superheroes, but even I can't deny that combat is super fun because they saw the potential and they went with and they executed it really well.
Yeah, it's a perfect balance of, for someone like you and someone like me where as someone who doesn't enjoy superheroes, the mechanics are engaging for you. And as someone who does, for me, even doing stupid stuff like finding the backpacks or the suits, like all of that, that's extra content that the fans get to enjoy. But the game itself is still very good. And this game honestly, it feels like it falls short on both ends. I expected it to be most entertaining to people who love Iron Man, but I think the mechanics are a little better than the fan service, so to speak.
Feels like a cash grab. Make an Iron
bit,
Man experience and dish it out to
yeah.
people. You'll play the real Iron Man, hopefully, in Marvel's Avengers, but we'll see, I guess, when we review that one.
Make sure you subscribe for our episode when that finally comes out. But yeah.
Yeah.
With that said, I think that's it for Iron Man VR. Thank you all so much for listening. If you want to hear more content, make sure you're subscribed. We'll be covering Avengers eventually, like we said, when that comes out. If there are certain games that you want to see specifically, make sure you get in on our Discord or follow us on social media and let us know, because we want to know what you want to see so we can
Hit up
give it
that
to you.
Patreon.
So, hit up that Patreon.
We
Linked
like
in the show
making
notes.
content, but it
Go
costs
check it
money.
out. I guess we'll talk at you next week.
Bye, friends.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That was tame. I'm proud of you, Palazzo. That was a nice,
tame
simple goodbye.
That was the sweet.
I added the reverb at the end. Bye.
Yeah, good stuff. You can do it.